Really. Yep. So welcome everyone who's here with us at Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for the welcome, Kay, and also welcome to everyone online. Hopefully you can hear us both in here and on the live stream. Ollie from On Screen is running the live stream, so if you've got any questions or want to use the chat, here we'll take questions if that's all right. Probably after, but if you've got something really pressing, then please put up your hand, because it's going to be quite a casual interaction as we talk about basically what can we all do to increase the customer experience for disabled people and carers. So that's the core message for Purple Tuesday. This is the fourth one we've done in Guernsey. We've been involved from day one. And it started in the UK. CEO Mike Adams was basically struggling to go out shopping, and he was unable to enter a lot of shops, unable to take part in activities, etc. And basically he decided that we needed to do something, and that's grown and grown and grown. So we now have international companies, many of which are in Guernsey, basically doing their best to make a commitment to make a change. And that's what we'll be asking yourselves online and in the room to think about over the next year. And I was just saying locally, my win will be if somebody or a couple of people take away this, meet with us during the year, and then sat on the sofa next year giving a case study. So listen very carefully to Kenny when he gives his case studies, because that's hopefully going to be one of you. So I'd like to welcome the panel. I'm going to start first with Sally, just introductions, and then we'll go into the whole debate. Can you tell us about you, Sally?
Of course I can. Good morning or good afternoon. I'm Sally Rochester. I'm a director at Deloitte in Guernsey, leading our advisory team, and I feel a little bit like a sue for fraud now, because unlike Kenny's case studies, I'm not going to be able to share with you today what Deloitte have done, but what I do want to share with is some insights from a piece of research we did on financial inclusion, so very much focus on topic in relation to financial services.
Kenny, your dual role.
Hi, good morning. Kenny McDonald, I'm the Head of Retail Operations for Channel Islands Co-op, and I'm also a Director in the Guernsey Retail Group, which is a supporting group for all the various retailers in the island, and I sit in that board. I think I've been involved in this work from 2017, 2018, so I'm really excited that we're able to share what we've been doing and also get some other support and insights as well, which is helpful.
Thank you, Nikki.
Hi, I'm Nikki Ioanni-Drussiotis. I'm the Chief Executive of Guernsey Employment Trust, and we're a charity that supports disabled people to prepare for work, find work and maintain work.
Brilliant, thank you, Nikki. I think we're going to start with you, Sally, if that's okay. So we've been talking big stuff. We were talking when we met on the webinar about UN Sustainable Goals. So we thought we'd start big and how they're relevant not only globally but also locally, because the government work plan, is phased around those. And for us, obviously, equality is a big part of that. Could you maybe talk about the work and also some of the blogs and research that you've done, please?
Yes, of course. So as you said, the UN Sustainable Development Goals impact a lot on the work that I'm doing with clients and for Deloitte at the moment. And those 17 goals have goal 10 as reducing inequalities. And so under that goal, Deloitte did some work with HSBC in 2020, and they were asked to look at financial inclusion as a topic and to give some advice to HSBC on how they might address financial exclusion, what factors create financial exclusion and what barriers exist in the financial services industry to everybody participating in the products and services that are provided in an equal way. So for the term financial inclusion, if I might just start by defining what that is, we see that as making financial products and services accessible and affordable for everyone. And today I talk about that topic in relation to disability. The research that was done by our UK firm, I wrote a brief blog for the Chamber of Commerce on, so beware everybody, this is where you end up when you write a brief blog. But I was delighted to share the findings that came out of that work. In terms of why is financial inclusion or exclusion an issue, I was amazed by the statistics that were put in the report. In 2019, 3 million disabled people were turned down for insurance. 1 in 8 disabled people can't physically access their bank or were turned down for credit. A fifth of disabled people have to pay higher premiums for insurance. And the most incredible thing, given that our entire financial services industry seems to be orientating towards technology, for me, was that the majority of banking apps and websites don't actually meet the UK government accessibility guidelines. So this really, I suppose, for me was about an industry that is increasingly operating at a scale and develops products that are really good for the masses, but not necessarily good for those that have individual needs. So that's the challenge that's presented, but there is, I'm delighted to say, a huge opportunity. You know, Karen was talking about Purple Tuesday. I'm thrilled to see that Deloitte are participants in Purple Tuesday, but the UK Purple Pound is worth £274 billion, and that's increasing 14% year on year. So there's a massive commercial opportunity, and in Guernsey, as one of those slides will say, the Purple Pound here is worth £274 million. And not only is there an opportunity for financial services to bring in those individuals that might need slightly more tailored financial services or products, but actually our Better Banking survey that we did last year indicated that customers are more likely to bank with a bank that has a greater social impact. So this commercial opportunity goes, you know, to the mainstream, to the whole community that we live in, and to, you know, all of you, you're here today and you're interested in this as a topic. So there's a value to this, both in terms of the community and in terms of those that are struggling to access financial services and products. But as with any responsible business initiative, there's also a value in terms of not only customers, but your employees, your stakeholder engagement more broadly, investors. And there's a definite push from, in the UK and over here in Guernsey, from regulators of financial services products who are increasingly saying to financial services businesses, you can't just deliver the products that make money for you and suit you, you need to service the needs of an entire community. So I don't know how much time I've got, but I'm going to cover off one final area, which is, you know, how should financial services businesses capture this opportunity? And the first thing I'd say is having a diverse workforce. You should, as a workforce and as an employer, represent the community that you want to serve. So have a look at that. Think about, and this is for financial services broadly, personalised financial services support. So that is about creating a physical presence, an accessible presence for people to come in and talk to you about their financial needs, rather than just pushing out the products that suit you. And it's about building trust. I know a lot of us do our banking or buy insurance over the internet now, but imagine, going into your bank and meeting somebody that understands your specific needs and they're able to respond with a product that meets those needs. And again, I think I saw another statistic, the loyalty of customers that Karen's going to rifle through now, the loyalty of customers who genuinely have their needs met in terms of financial products and other products is phenomenal. So it really does make sense to the business. Then in terms of specialised products, I think two things struck me from the report that was written. The first is that disabled people were twice as likely to lose jobs during COVID and suffer a massive impact on their credit rating. And that disabled people also often have non-traditional income streams, so getting things like mortgages is a really hard thing to do, despite the fact that they're financially pretty well off. They don't tick the boxes that are needed for those financial products to be delivered to them. So just to conclude, I think there is a commercial opportunity, there's a social impact opportunity, and there is an opportunity for financial service industry to build on their brand and their credibility and the trust they have with the communities that they operate in. And I would love to see that captured from today onwards.
That's fantastic, Sally, thank you. We'll definitely come back to some of that, and I'm sure online and in the room, please maybe think about those questions you might have for Sally. That's led us in really well, and in fact I think I'm going to hold up another board now, because some of the statistics we're looking at is around, so in this one, 75% of disabled people have left a store or the website, so I'm just holding that up to the camera as well. And Kenny, this is something that I'm going to ask your co-op hat first. I did tell you it's the other way around, but that you've worked really hard on, not only for the customers but also for your staff. Maybe you could explain a couple of the things that you've been doing to try and increase retention or people returning to the store with disabilities.
Yeah, sure. So I guess our journey started about 2017 when autism charities approached us to support the National Autism Week, and fast forward now to where we are. We're running quieters, as we call them, in all our Grand Marché stores once a week. So what became, Autism Era became quieter because we quickly realised through feedback from customers it wasn't just autistic customers that were using the service. We had customers that had M&S, dementia. We've even got families that are coming with their kids because it's a quieter time for them to shop. So very quickly the trial that we did has been established to the point that we're looking to develop it further, add another day or extend the time that we're doing it, because quite clearly there's a large number of customers out there that need to be able to shop in an environment that's quieter. So simple steps that we take in the store are, there's no tannoy, there's no music, and we restrict a lot of the activities on the shop floor. So that there's not a lot of noise, which is difficult in any retail at this time of the year, but we take notable steps to avoid having that busy, lots of people on the shop floor, lots of activity. Even turning off the tills, I've been in retail all my adult career, and it was only in this exercise that we realised that we could turn the beeping off at the tills. So, so we turn them off, we turn the lights off in our fridges and freezers, and there's another reason we do that, because we can save energy. So it's not just accessibility. So if you actually look at it through different lenses, there's numerous reasons why we should be supporting this. So that's obviously the quieter, as we call now, that we're looking to develop. We've been avid supporters of the hidden disabilities, and I think during COVID it became more apparent for our colleagues who are working in certainly from a food retail environment, and the pressure and the environment they were working in. It's quite an embarrassment that we never realised how many colleagues we had that work for us that have hidden disabilities. So it was really important that we took that step, because the amount of support and encouragement that it gave those colleagues to attend work, because we were supporting that initiative, it made perfect sense. So really proud to have seen that has developed further in lots of retailers. The UK, it's worldwide now, so something that we'll be committed to continuing to support.
That's great, Kenny. And something I'd really like to say, which I just love about Guernsey, is we were the very first year this started 4 years ago, we were heavily involved, and in fact got an accolade from Mike and acknowledgement for all of our work, and that's down to a lot of you. That what's great over here is it doesn't take too long to tap someone on the shoulder and get somebody involved. So Kenny and many others, like the library, many others really got involved, which is fantastic. And something that you mentioned there is that when you make what we call an adjustment, it's actually really good for a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've certainly learned through the access audits which we've done. So 2-3 years ago we started that work with Karen and the team here in Guernsey. We've actually had all the Jersey stores done now as well through Liberate. And it was actually, again, we invest lots of money in our stores. We can actually save money by taking some of these steps. So it's not a cost, and I think that's probably one of the call-outs, that there is a fear there that adapting your workplace or your environment is going to be a cost. There is a cost, but it's a cost of operating a business anyway. And it's about doing the right thing. And it's simple things. So the Grand Marché store at St Martin's, we had the wrong taps in the customer toilets. We had the wrong mats at the entrance to the floor. We had the wrong lights. It wasn't any more expensive replacing them. It was just the wrong type of equipment. and that work that we've now done with the access team that our development teams now work with, I'm convinced they'll be saving us money in the long run, as well as obviously providing an environment that both our colleagues and customers can shop more effectively.
Thank you, Kenny. You're always so eloquent. And this time we're recording it because Kenny gave the most wonderful speech last year and we weren't recording it. So we'll make sure we play out. So what Kenny hits there, and I think this is the fear and why we love Purple Tuesday and want to use it each year. It's every day, but obviously when you have a special day, you get the media coverage. Thank you today. The key is that if we acknowledge these things now and try and make the changes and we build them into what we're doing, so let's just take physical access as an example, it's much cheaper, it's easier, and then the great thing is the retention around getting all new customers. So we talked, I think before it said about the loyalty. So a lot of our members, and also we get a lot of people calling us when they're coming here to travel, so from a tourism point of view, we'll ask where can they go that it's quiet to have a coffee or quiet to eat. I can promise you I've only got about 5 places on my hand. It's actually very, modern places have no carpet, it's hard with the roofing, the tiles, the lighting. So it's really important that we find places that people are comfortable in. And again, each time you make these some are quite minor changes, it's actually what other people want to. I don't know about any of you, but I like to be able to hear people when I go for a coffee. It's important for many of us to have that opportunity. So I'm just going to give one example, is because Kenny and I had breakfast a while ago to talk about this. And then I spent some time afterwards and asked the manager there, can I just have a minute of your time? And they were a little bit worried. I get this a lot. There's like, oh no, there's that woman that's going to tell me what I have to do and it's going to cost me a fortune. Get this a lot. She was fabulous, absolutely brilliant. I said, are you planning on having any works? What are you planning on doing here? Because it's quite noisy and the light's quite difficult in here for people. So actually, we're taking the ceiling down in the next few months because we've got some issues. And so we sat there and talked about basically rewiring, which they're planning on doing, so that you can cut music out from certain sections of the restaurant. So when people come in and say, do you mind turning the music down, you could do that in isolated areas rather than the whole workshop, the whole area. We did the same with the lights. We talked about being able to dim the lights or raise the lights. So one of the difficult things with access, if you have a visual impairment, you might want it brighter, but maybe somebody else, maybe autism or sensory, may want the lights lower. It's very difficult. We've got to all work around this. We're all learning together. And then the next thing was the ceiling. Now this does cost a little bit more, but I asked them when they replaced the ceiling to possibly think about having soundproofing or acoustic tiles, or ceiling in the roof. And that basically would buffer the noise. If you were refurbishing, those booths are amazing, a little bit like the American booths. They take a little bit of the noise off. So the reason I just wanted to share that is everything we do and what we talk about with Purple Tuesday, and a lot of what Nikki will explain, is about helping people, holding their hands through this, supporting people through these changes. We're not trying to make your life harder. We're trying to make these changes so that more people will visit, more people will shop, and then the loyalty of returning. So Nikki, maybe you can explain a little bit more about what GET does to actually support businesses so that they are more aware or have the etiquette or understanding around disability.
Okay, yeah. So Guernsey Employment Trust, I said it earlier, but we support disabled people to prepare for work, find work and maintain work. And if I'm being honest, when Karen invited me today and did the tap on the shoulder, like she said before, she's very persistent. And I did think, well, how does GET link in with this about the customer experience? Because we're about getting people into employment. But obviously there is the link because the more successful we are at getting people a job, obviously the more money they've then got to then spend. But we've already mentioned it with regards to if you can make your workforce more comfortable and happier in what they do and have the adjustments that they need, then that can then benefit your customers, because I think a lot of work that we do is about changing mindsets and getting employers on board with legislation might not be here yet, but what could you do now to make your workplace more accessible, provide more opportunities for disabled people to either enter your workforce or stay in your workforce if they've perhaps become unwell or had an injury. So we can I give a bit of context? Yeah, so we support approximately 250 disabled people at any given time. So that's our caseload. And we work with all disabilities. So that also then means we work with all abilities, and we're always looking for jobs in all areas at all levels of the business. So we can support businesses by helping you to fill your vacancies. And I guess our USP is that we really spend a good amount of time getting to know our clients over a period of a few months, having perhaps tested someone during work experience. So we've got a good idea as to whether somebody would be a good fit for your organisation, the role that you've got, and the team that the person's actually going to be placed in. So we can support you to fill the vacancy, but then when the person starts with you, we can then support them to learn the role and settle in with the team on the job if that's what the person needs, and support the colleagues as well, because I think sometimes if a colleague hasn't had much personal experience perhaps of disability, if they've never worked with somebody with autism, that might be a bit daunting. So we're there to handhold both, if you like, and offer the relevant training. In addition to the actual one-to-one support, we also do more generic support and advice. We produced, I'm going to use it as a plug, we produced a good practice guide for employers, which is available on our website. I would have liked to bring lots of copies, but they're really heavy, and especially to walk from the car. So if you would like a copy, then my colleague Charlotte is in the audience and she can take your details. But what we wanted to do to really bring good practice to life and make a tangible difference is we produced an employer's disability charter. So our charter is about, it's not necessarily about the legislation, but it's about changing mindsets and getting organisations into good practice so that when the legislation comes, hopefully towards the back end of next year, it won't be as much of a step change for businesses because they've already started to look at their workplace practices. They've already started to provide work experience or paid opportunities for people. They've perhaps already support with offering mock interviews. They might have implemented a guaranteed job interview scheme for disabled people that meet minimum criteria. So there's all these steps that employers can take, but it's about starting on a journey and not necessarily at the point of signing up. You don't have to have already have completed it and be a star pupil. It's an acknowledgement of, okay, let's make a start. Let's start looking at what we're doing and how can we make an improvement. So if that's something you're interested in, then, like I said, Charlotte will be circulating the room, or if you're online, you can go on our website to find out more information. But in a nutshell, the more effort you spend in making your colleagues comfortable, that will naturally rub off on how you are with your customers, and it will encourage perhaps more customers to come in. I mean, we live on such a small island, word of mouth, and if you know a friend of yours has a disability, whether it's obvious or hidden, and you know that they've got a really good employer, you're perhaps more likely to want to either use their services or spend money there. So.
Fabulous, Nikki. You've sort of answered my question really in many ways, or my statement, which was when we talk about supporting people with disability or impairment in your workplace, exactly as Nikki was saying, you're actually then supporting your customer, because we're not just sort of hiding away, hiding in our rooms. We're actually taking an active part in society. So I'd just like to put that out there. How many? What do people think is the number of people with disability in Guernsey that isn't one of my own team or we work with, or have a guess? Anybody online want to put it in the chat, or have a guess locally? You can probably guess if you turn this figure into a value, 22%. So in the survey that was undertaken a while ago now, and hopefully there'll be a new one coming soon, it's 13,500 people, and that always absolutely shocks people. So even if it's near that figure. And the reason that shocks people is it includes hidden disabilities. And if you start to actually think about all of the people that are involved, through hidden disability, whether that's autism, dementia, hearing, visual impairments, other conditions, it does actually also include cancer, but it's very, very diverse. So that's a lot of people to support, but actually many of the interactions, or what we call as barriers, are very, very similar. So how you're treated when you go into a restaurant, are you addressed personally, or is your carer or somebody with you done that? Is your online, if I go onto your website, can I book online, or can I use your services? We saw this an awful lot in COVID, where it was actually very good for many of our members that, takeaways, shopping, all moved online, which meant it was far more accessible. The key question though was the website accessible? Was the technology accessible? So we've been over at Digital Greenhouse this morning, and if you get the chance to look online or around the room today, so we've got soft and hard copies, we have a number of leaflets, and the leaflets are here to guide you. So I can't reiterate this enough, that Nikki, our sales disability officer, has 6 or 7 of these leaflets that are here to support you. So customer service, web accessibility, digital content, they're all on our website, matter.gg. In fact, I'll just get Ollie, if that's okay, to put it in the chat. Site accessibility, how do you make your shop, restaurant, business more accessible from a physical point of view, and producing digital content. So today, we just wanted to sort of explain a little bit about, and really focus on the fact that we're here to support you, and ensuring that we have financial inclusion, physical inclusion is absolutely important to take part in society. So I'm going to actually very quickly, because I can see Louise and Sarah are just still here, make an announcement and John, an announcement that was announced yesterday. I'm not sure if anyone saw in the media, that the great news is we're forming a consortium. So our lead partners are the Institute, which some people may think of as College of FE, GTA, etc., and Walkers. So Sarah in the room, Sarah and Louise can give us a wave. And John from Focus HR, Nikki and ourselves. So a really great team supported by then Equality Guernsey, so that's Liberate, Age Concern, many other areas. And the idea, again, and why I want to advertise that, is that we're here through materials, resources, and to offer support, offer advice, provide training, and basically guide people through the next year or two. And I think it's a really important part of how we deliver our services. So I'm going to flick back, if you don't mind, to Kenny, if that's all right, Kenny. Put you in the hot seat. We talked about the co-op. Can you maybe talk about Guernsey Retail Group briefly? Because for me, this is a really exciting opportunity. I think Corinne's here as well, about how do we access retailers? Well, something that's been really difficult for us as a charity is how do we persuade people that giving the best customer experience is critical to the financial bottom line, and also, as Nikki was saying, possibly even help with the recruitment crisis.
Yeah, I think the starting point for me is I don't believe there's any retail in the island doesn't believe that they should be open and inclusive to all customers, whether it's disabilities, visible or otherwise. So I think there'll be a willingness there for retailers to take whatever steps they can. I think where the retail group can come in is dispelling some of the myths, particularly around cost and the complexity of it. Nobody's asking to install lifts in every shop and spend hundreds of thousands of pounds. That's the nice to do when you redevelop and rebuild. But it's taking the immediate, simple steps that I've mentioned previously. And I think as a retail group, we can certainly share that, those stories, those quick wins, and encourage more retailers to take those quick steps. There's a massive amount of investment in retail at the moment, and I'm pretty sure that the majority of those businesses will be keen to get the feedback from the access team as to what they can do with improving lighting, improving flooring, what we're doing with slip mats at the entrance to floors to make it more accessible, making our counters and our service areas wheelchair friendly. All simple, fairly rudimentary steps that I think most retailers will be keen to do. So I don't think there's going to be a huge barrier there. So it's more of a job for us to help sell and promote it.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of retailers during COVID became a lot more accessible, because there's a lot of places that you could order online and get it delivered to your house, and that would have opened up a lot of opportunities for disabled people to access shops that they perhaps hadn't previously.
think that's a really good point, Nikki. And if we follow on with that, the other thing that happened during the pandemic, I mean, we're still in it, if we think about then, is that you were more likely to be given the opportunity to work online. And for some people, whether you have a caring responsibility, whether maybe you have a mental health condition that means you work better at different times of the day, the whole environment sort of gave people the opportunity to work what I was always called productively. So I have a background in analytics and HR, and when I returned to Ireland 7 years ago, I was absolutely surprised by how focused the Ireland is on presenteeism, like if you're in the office, and how little we measure productivity. And how do we link that back? Well, we link that back to this conversation by thinking about how can we be more flexible. We have a recruitment crisis. How can we make sure as many people that want to be in work can be in work, and what do we do differently? And I'm going to put Sally on the spot for this with her IOD hat. Every one of us here has a number of hats. Sally, how do you think, are there conversations going on in ID about this? How do we persuade directors to think about how we can take a little bit of flexibility, which actually brings a lot more inclusion?
Oh, Wendy's sitting in front of me.
I know.
She's the chair of IOD, but I'll leave you in the audience for now, Wendy. I think it's a conversation we were just having early on today about the importance of equality in all of our businesses and in many of the sustainable development goals. They're intertwined. The way that I would explain this in terms of financial services is twofold. There are two things that our report recommended. Firstly, that financial products are explained more clearly and more simply, with simple language that all can understand. And I don't think there's a person in this room who wouldn't welcome that. And I can't comment on whether you have disabilities or hidden disabilities, but it's just a basic principle of doing good business and including everybody and making life easier. So I think that's a really good example of where a benefit that would support those with disabilities actually just brings value to everybody. And the second piece is about financial literacy and education. So, for example, Deloitte have developed an app which they're rolling out to school students and to others that want to develop their financial literacy, understand what products are out there, understand the value that they have, why they might want to purchase them. And again, that's just a good principle for doing business, because you're helping people to understand why your products have value, and for helping people to make decisions that are informed and beneficial. So bringing that back to your original question of, do directors or should directors and businesses be thinking about the benefits this brings to their business? Absolutely, because that principle of doing something for a particular part of our community that has a halo benefit for the rest of our community must surely be good business.
Thank you. I'll just keep you for a second, if that's all right. I think some people still struggle that the 274 million locally or 274 billion is real. If you sort of, we've talked about it. Have you got sort of any insight or want to sort of share with anyone that, that those tweaks, etc., that there is customer spending to be had?
Yeah, one of the statistics in our report that I don't think I shared with you initially was that for disabled people, they have to spend an extra £583 a month on living costs. That's the products and services that we all provide, are £583 a month more expensive for them. And now, if you were to position yourself as a business that represents good value for those with disabilities with a personalised service, who wouldn't want to save that sort of money month in, month out? This is a huge opportunity in our community to provide goods and services to people that have not had the opportunity of good value so far because of the way that we structure ourselves as businesses. So, yeah, I could wax lyrical about the opportunity. I hope you've got the clear message, but that number was startling to me.
Thank you, that's excellent. So I'm just going to do a tiny little plug before, if you're online, start thinking about your questions or in the audience. And I'm actually just going to ask Ollie if he's happy to put into the chat the purpletuesday.org.uk/get involved. Or grab it off the Purple Tuesday website. So Purple Tuesday, as I mentioned before, is a UK body, charity. And there's 4 things that they ask you to do today. So the first thing is register. And when you register, you have access to all of these resources. And when you register, it also gives them the opportunity to then, I wouldn't say hold to account, because you might be scared to register, but do number 2, which is to have a think about what you're going to commit, or which at least one commitment you're going to make. So this is something I'd love to do locally, is really start to build up those stories. Kenny's got a few, we've got the library and others. What are you today going to do differently? If you're a business, is it review your accessibility online? Do you produce content? Could it be more accessible? Are there some physical accessibility changes you could make? Could you maybe partake in the Hidden Disability webinar this Thursday, plug at 10 o'clock? You know, can you train your staff? Can you get involved? What is that commitment going to be? Because I would love to hear from you. The third one is actually to deliver on that. So we can make a commitment. In fact, at the IOG conference, we were asking the same, weren't we, about sustainability in the environment. But what we want to see is that commitment. And then, as I mentioned before, the fourth is the celebration, and today's the celebration. I'd love to see some of you on the sofa. So Ollie will put in the chat, and as I mentioned, anyone in here, you have access to that. And then the key really is how we can then support you and the commitment ideas. So maybe, Kenny, we could just find sort of, as we start to wrap up, talk about maybe some of the support we've had and the face that you had, like that lady the other day when you first met me. I went, uh-oh, here we go.
So I'm not sure I got that one, but...
Sorry. When we first met, there was that we get quite regularly. It's like, oh no, she's going to tell me I have to put a lift in, and I'm going to have to gut the shop, and I have to take down the Easter eggs and the Christmas crackers. And
Yeah, I think I'm happy to talk about my first experience of it, walking around St Martin's with the architects. There was a bit of fear there, I won't deny it. You know, you're walking around a store that we know we're going to refit next year, and we're going to spend, you know, a couple of £1 million on it, and you instantly think wrongly, God, you're going to add another 0 to the end of it, because you just assume that it's going to be out there, requests. But no, I think it's just putting it into perspective and removing the fear. I think it's about doing the right thing. You know, Co-op, we're a community retailer first and foremost, but I think the majority of retailers in the island will have the same view, that they're wanting to do the best for the community that they operate in. And it's, you know, it makes perfect business sense. You can save some money, but it's about investing in your business, investing in your property, and investing in your team. So why wouldn't you want to do that?
That's great, thank you. So the key message we're trying to put through today is we're all here to try and change the customer experience for disabled people and carers. I think I omitted to say earlier that the carers numbers in Guernsey are over 4,000. I think that's probably quite a low figure, and that's unpaid carers. And carers are really important in this because, you know, guess who takes people out, guess who takes them shopping, guess who takes them around the supermarket, you know, maybe to fulfil a service as in banking or anything else. And it's really important that the carer and the individual, you know, have that access. And as I said before, access isn't just physical. The really interesting thing is the most important thing, I'm going to ask you this question actually, what do you think is the most important thing to our members with disabilities or impairment and the carers when they're out taking part in shopping or being out and about? Do you think it's physical? Do you think it's online? Do you think what do you think is the most important thing? Which I'd actually say is the same for all of us. For guess? Customer service. So people would rather enter somewhere that's a little bit difficult to get into, or could be a little bit, but if they get the customer service, they get the respect that they're due, and you know, everyone does what they can to make sure that we're included and take part in that experience. They come back, and that comes back to the loyalty and to the 274 million spending power. Get that customer service right. Get rid of that fear. I know when I took this job on 7 years ago, I had no background in disability, and it was the etiquette that Nikki was talking about, saying the wrong thing, the fear around the language we use. If you can get past that with the training, then it opens up doors, you know, to you and to that opportunity for our members. I wonder if I could maybe ask all three of you to just, before we take questions, just say maybe what you've learnt today, if that's all right, or a takeaway. want to go first, Sally?
Yes, I think the numbers of people that discussion is relevant to. You know, we've just mentioned there the number of disabled people and carers. Well, isn't that about a quarter of our population?
20 and 20%.
Yeah, 1 in 4 of the people that live on this island are directly impacted by the issues that we're discussing here today. So I'm delighted to have been part of the discussion. Thank you.
I guess there's two things that really stand out for me. Recruitment in retail is obviously a massive challenge. You know, I was at another event not so long ago, and I know that we're doing some work with Nikki and the team and looking how we can upskill to get more of the potential colleagues out there in the community that aren't working. And I was pretty shocked at the number of people that can't work because of disabilities, 4 times the amount of people that are unemployed. And we focus on those that are unemployed as potential applicants. You know, we're missing a trick there, so that's lesson 1. And I think lesson 2 is there's so much more we need to be doing. There's a large proportion of the community out there that aren't getting access to the services in the shops and the service that we should be providing, so we need to step up, I'd say.
And I must admit, I hadn't realised your quiet hour was now extended to everybody else, so that's really useful to know. And even though I didn't learn this today, I still struggle to get my head around the £274 million in Guernsey. I mean, that's such a huge amount of money that why wouldn't businesses make a little bit of effort to try and tap into that huge amount of profit? So yeah, it's a big amount of money. So I think we all need to keep, you know, advertising that and pushing that figure, because at a time where especially retail, all industries really have really struggled with COVID and lockdowns and not working to full capacity. You know, that's a good figure to remember.
Thank you, Nikki. Did anyone spot the error in the, yeah. That's what happens when you're dyslexic and checking late at night. Thank you so much. I wonder if we have maybe a question from the floor first and then one from the, yep, thank you. Green.
I would just like to add something, if I may, to what you've all been saying.
Sorry, Nikki.
Yeah, I'd just like to add something to what you've all been saying. I came in late, apologies for that, I got caught on a phone call. But it's really what you were saying this morning as well, is what can people do? And as Kenny was saying, there's not always a lot of cost involved. A lot of it is about awareness. Mm-hmm. And people are here today, and that's a great step, you know, people finding out, because it's the general standard you offer across the board for all of your customers and including everyone, but that awareness just enables us to be able to, you know, welcome people that have hidden disabilities as well. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Jenny, and then...
Thank you, Corinne. Yes, it's something very simple actually that we looked at, the design looked at a couple of years ago, and that is the ability for retailers to provide chairs for people to sit on. We did a survey in town, and there are a number of premises who do not have that facility. Some refuse to actually, and we are going to be looking again in the new year at reintroducing this idea, because it's not only those who are disabled, but hidden disabilities, older people, pregnant people, carers who are waiting while somebody in a wheelchair is being attended to would like to just sit down. It's a very simple thing that could be done, I would have thought and hoped, very easily in premises. And as I say, the Douzaine will certainly be looking at it again.
Fabulous. That came up in Accessible Town that we ran probably 3 years ago now at Christmas. So we talk about people are surprised customer service is the most important. The two things that came out there were a chair. It was quite simple, and we went around the shops and they had one but had to take it out because it was Christmas, so everything else had been pushed out the way, which Kenny will know all about. We have this a lot now that we have Halloween and everything else. There's always a lot of things around. But the other one's toilets. Now, St Peterport's really difficult for toilets, and people don't seem to realise, or I'd like to talk about the community toilet scheme because it's quite unknown. So what we'll do is we'll post it later. But there's a sticker that goes in the window of anyone that's happy to say, basically, you can use my premises as a toilet. So that's not thinking accessible toilets. We have those, we have the radar keys, we could always do more. This is anybody that, you know, needs access to toilets. So it could be children, it could be somebody with incontinence, you know, anything. And we'd like to extend that scheme because, again, those are some of the small things that mean that people either don't come out to shop, parking and toilets, or they don't continue to shop because they need to go back to the parking or use the toilet. So those things are really important to make sure we get as many people into town as
It was
possible.
as long ago as 2016 that we introduced that toilet scheme. And again, it's something that has got to be reassessed and looked at. So thank you for that.
Do my best to plug everything. Sorry.
Yes,
Thank you. My boss is disabled. A lot of people know him. He's Vaughan Davies from the record store. Now, he was telling me a couple of days ago that he was going to England and he was wearing his lanyard. It's a yellow one, which I don't know about it, I know of it. And apparently it gives him priority for getting on the plane, being first on, and he was completely ignored. What happened was they left him towards the end and they made him try and walk all the way from the back right up to the front. So my question is, the relevance and importance of wearing a lanyard when you're disabled if nobody takes a blind bit of notice.
Thank you for raising that. Yeah, no, everyone very well. So the lanyard, interesting that he thought it was a priority. The lanyard is there to say, I have a hidden disability and, you know, could you offer me assistance? That assistance for each person will be completely different. You know, so whether they have, you know, a hearing impairment or a mobility impairment, or it's autism or dementia. So, you know, how I interact might be that I need more time or something different. So the training goes on globally. We were one of the first places, thanks to Jill and the airport and ports team, to adopt it. But the retraining, because the staff turnover is something that we have to do all the time. So I've mentioned we've got the training again on Thursday. It's really disappointing to hear that, especially really the idea is that you then ask, what is it that you need? So, for example, when my daughter goes through, she gets really upset about the scanner, whereas for somebody else it might be about the distance they have to walk. And the question they need to be asking for each individual, because we all are different, is how can I, you know, support you through this experience? So for some people it's anxiety, some people it's mobility. Some people like to get on the plane later and they might have thought that was a good thing to do because everyone's seated. Some people want to get on first and be in their seat early. For somebody else that would be stressful, it's more time on the plane. So I'm really disappointed or upset that happened, and Jill is fabulous that should speak with them. But I'm afraid that with everything, you turn over, we need to be training and consistently training.
But there's no excuse for making walk right to the front of the aircraft, is there?
I don't want to comment more than that because I don't know how and why it happened, but I would like to reassure that we'll have a conversation and find out. Again, each person will be different, and the idea is that somebody acknowledges it with the training and asks, how can we help you today, and then does that individually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I just add to that? Did Vaughan actually tell the airline in advance?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, because normally if you tell the airline in advance,
Yep.
they will be able to tell you, ask you questions when you check in.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, that's great. I think what comes out of that conversation goes back to like all of us, we're an individual, and every one of us in the community is an individual and will need different things. I don't think that should scare everyone, but I understand that people are scared to ask a question. Are they going to word it right? Are they going to offend anyone? But the whole point about today being the customer experience and is that if you engage politely, you ask, what can I do differently? Somebody's more likely to return, and somebody's more likely to sort of, come back and also spread the word. So within our members, a lot of people ask, where do you go? Which restaurant? The question we get the most is which restaurant or coffee shop is quiet enough that I can hear myself. And we spread that. and until we know about yours, if you have one, don't know if anyone here is in catering, you know, they're very loyal, but they're also in a very tight network, and people sometimes maybe wrongly perceive disability as benefits, forgetting that absolutely we have millionaires in our membership, we have entrepreneurs in our membership, we have CEOs, you know, we're as diverse as everyone else in the community, and many of our members have that money to spend. We got any online? Is there any last questions? We're time up, sorry.
A quick one, but sadly, I've seen more restaurants in Guernsey, in the towns and places saying, don't come in here unless you're a customer to use the toilet. I see a lot of that. But I noticed at the breakfast today you had the leaflets, the blue leaflets, the purple leaflets, and one of them was on customer care, and that you reinforced the message today. But from Kenny's point of view, or all your point of view, would get in, you know, working together with Chamber and maybe We All Matter, actually provide commercial training courses to retail and other staff in customer care for people with disabilities or related issues, carers? Would that be perhaps an area that the retail group look at further?
Let's go back on that, because there's a lot of charities. That do that already. So Dementia Friends, yes. Guernsey Mind, Autism Guernsey. We do it around hidden disability. Jill and I, and also I mentioned before about the consortium. That would be more about the legislation. But basically, I think you'll find over the next couple of years that support for organisations, and I'm especially passionate about small organisations, because they need that support more than anyone, will grow, and you know, we will do our best as our capacity and capability will allow us to support people in any way we can. Could we maybe finish today by just saying, please, the whole point of today is get on the mailing list, take our numbers. Mine's Karen@matter.gg, email. That start the journey of asking us what you would like to assist you to make the customer experience better, and we will do our best to either fulfil it ourselves or fulfil it with our partners, other charities, or better still, share best practice. So for example, Kenny's examples, we'll make them into news stories and put them on social media. We've got fantastic support from people like Chamber, Digi, you know, and now I say the new consortium. You know, there's a lot out there, so please just start the journey of having a conversation with us. Is that okay? Thanks, Ollie.